Didn't he call you?
No.
No text from Ken? He should text you. Boom.
This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of June 15, 2021, with instructions for internet access, was included in the meeting notice sent to the Burlington County Times and the Courier Post on January 6, 2021, and advertised in said newspapers on January 8th and January 9th, 2021. Respectively posted on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building on January 9th, 2021, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public. It is posted on the main doors the Friday before the meeting and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Costco?
The public may electronically submit questions or comments to pcostco@hanesporttownship.com or in written letter form to the clerk's office at the municipal building, no later than 4 p.m. the Monday prior to the committee meeting. To eliminate background noise so that all meeting participants can hear, please mute your microphone and remain in listening mode only. I will place all remote attendees on this remote platform on mute as well. During public comment periods, I will unmute all remote participants. If you do not have a question or a comment, please manually remute your microphone. I will manage the remote users for public comments. All users must state their name and address at the beginning of his or her public comment. Should a member of the public that is using the GoToMeeting platform become disruptive, that person will be kept on mute and warned that continued disruption may result in being prevented from speaking or removed from the remote meeting. If time permits, the disruptive individual shall be allowed to speak after all other members of the public have been given the opportunity to speak. I also just want to remind everybody that participants can also go on YouTube Live and watch the video also, watch the meeting live. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tara, roll call.
Mayor Gilmore,
Here.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Here?
Mr. Levinson,
Here.
Mr. Klaus,
Here.
Mr. Montgomery.
Here.
At this point in time, I would ask that we all have a moment of silence for Mr. William Betcher, III, and for J. Jones, Jr. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. McLaughlin to speak about Mr. Betcher.
So this is part of what I was asked to speak a few things about Bill at his funeral, and I jotted down a couple things, and I wanted to express them. Thank you, Mayor, for giving me this opportunity. Well, who was William Betcher III? Well, I will try to describe Bill by some of the titles he held through his life. Bill was a son, born in 1934 to Grace and Don. He was a grandson to William Jr. Betcher, brother to Richard, Peggy, and Sandy, husband, married to Alma for 63 years, soldier. Bill served from 1957 to 59 in Patton's Third Army in Germany. Of course, Patton was deceased by then. Father to Vicky, father-in-law, grandfather to Andrew and Rebecca, great-grandfather to Dakota Lee. Athlete, Bill lettered in golf, varsity golf and track in high school. A roller skater, Bill met his wife Alma skating and skated late into his life with her. A hot rodder, Bill had a 50s Ford with loud mufflers. He said the cops used to get mad at him. Bill, printer. Bill's only job was with Van Aken Printing for over 50 years. Businessmen. Bill and Alma bought the business in the 70s and worked together until they retired. Member. He was a member of the Optimist Club of Philadelphia, where businessmen met to network opportunities. RVer. Bill and family traveled to 48 states and 7 Canadian provinces in their motorhome and campers. President. Bill was a president of the Winnebago RV local chapter. Family motor coach member. Bill and Alma went to events everywhere. Konstatter and Bayerscher Volksfest member, German Club of Philadelphia. Bill enjoyed the music and the dance. Visionary. His name is on the dedication of our municipal building. Hainesport Police Commissioner. Hainesport Planning and Zoning Board member. Hainesport Fire Company trustee. Burlington County Fire Police. We all saw Bill out in the snow and the rain. Hainesport Republican Club member. Hainesport Emergency Management Director. Hainesport Incident Management Director. Hainesport 9/11 Coordinator. Hainesport Committeeman. Hainesport Deputy Mayor. Hainesport Mayor. And last but not least, friend. He was a friend to a lot of us, including me. Long after Bill is gone, his work in town will touch us all. Here's a couple things that Bill made better for us all in Hainesport that'll go on for a long time. Bill was actually one of the first businessmen / politicians. He understood business and money. When Bill started in Hainesport government, the town was broke. It had to borrow money just to pay its weekly bills. I remember Bill telling me he had to sign notes to the bank to make payroll, sometimes $500,000 in a year. Bill helped get this town on a secure financial footing with his dollars and cents logic. Bill was a leader in eliminating the police department that was in disarray, that we couldn't afford and just couldn't manage, and secured state police coverage at no cost to our residents. Bill was behind the vision to develop this municipal building and the park system surrounding it, using a lot of Green Acres grants to complete it. And of course, his name will live in perpetuity on the plaque in the vestibule. Bill was part of the project that provided much needed sewer service to the older part of town, costed millions and millions of dollars. We would need to go on more for hours about everything Bill touched in Hainesport, but if you look at all the things Bill was able to accomplish in business, politics, town management, and his family time, you just have to ask, where'd this guy get all the time from? So that's something I read, and God rest in peace, Bill. He was a great guy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. And now Jerry Klaus will talk about Jay Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I called my little brother a few weeks back, and I told him about Jay because he went to school with him. He was saddened to hear the news, and we talked about Jay, how kind and helpful Jay was. And I asked him, where'd you meet? And he said, I don't remember. He was just always around. Then I thought to myself, I don't remember meeting Jay. I just always knew Jay, and he was always here, very dependable and always here. Jay was a member of the Hainesport Fire Police, and a community selfless servant. If it was a snowstorm, or something had to be done, Jay was here to do it. He was just here. Community days, I enjoyed hanging out with Jay, giving him a hand. He was always here. On community cleanup day, Jay was always here, like normal, dependable, cleaning up hours after all. The last guy, always here. When there was brush picked up, he would just show up. If you called Jay and he was out of town, he would always have an answer on how to get it done. I guess you could say Jay was always here for his family, friends, and our community. Until now, we will miss him because he was so much a friend to us all and always here.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, back to business. We have minutes to approve for May 11th, regular committee minutes and executive session minutes. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion. We approve.
I second that motion.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Reports, we have the tax collector, code enforcement, fire official, construction, and emergency services reports for May of 2021. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Okay, we now have some discussions. First off is Core 1 Industrial presentation for potential redevelopment consideration on Mary Way.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Bob Baranowski. I'm an attorney with Highland, Levin, Shapiro in Marlton. Our site engineer, Mr. Scott Quigley from Langen, is just going to set up a few exhibits to show us about the property. I also have Mr. Rob DePiro with us from Core 1, and I'll have him speak about Core 1 and our visions for the site. And as Scott is getting those boards set up, I could just give you a quick overview of what we're here for tonight, and that is to discuss some reasons potentially why it would be appropriate to engage with the township in some redevelopment planning here. And among the reasons you'll hear, the property is subject to split lot zoning. It's a mixture of industrial zoning and highway commercial. There are some environmental constraints on the property, such as wetlands. We have access through Mary Way at one point and potentially Route 38 at another point. So there are limited options for access points that result in not being very conducive to retail development as you would ordinarily find in the HC highway commercial zone. So, we're looking at factors under the redevelopment laws, such as under Section 5E, that existing conditions impede assemblage or discourage undertaking of improvements that would result in stagnant, unproductive condition of land that would otherwise be potentially useful and valuable for development. And we feel that would apply here, and that's why we're discussing redevelopment. We could split the project into, phases, some of which would be potentially permitted, and bring those to the Joint Land Use Board, where it would act as a planning board. Some aspects of the development would, as presented, as proposed, need D-variance relief, so they would be presented to the Joint Land Use Board, acting in its capacity as a zoning board of adjustment. So instead of going in a piecemeal fashion like that, we're seeing a greater benefit potentially in developing a more cohesive plan developed through cooperative planning with the governing body, with the Joint Land Use Board. So we could do things like work on site design standards together rather than have those developed in an ad hoc fashion if we were to be before the Land Use Board seeking variance relief and making adjustments and trying to figure out the best thing to do, kind of more on the fly. Redevelopment planning would give us a greater opportunity to work through that process more carefully and develop site design standards specific to the project and the site that will work best for the project and for the community. And we see that being beneficial for everybody to develop that coordinated vision for the site with the township. And redevelopment planning has been successful in Hainesport, and we see that happening. And we see this project proceeding on a similar path and in a similar successful manner should we go down that road together, and hopefully we will. So with that in mind, with that kind of setting the table, if I may have Mr. Rob DePiro kind of step up, tell you some details, information about Core 1 and what they see as their vision for the project. Thank you. Mr. DePiro.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight to present our project. I'm one of three managing partners at Core 1 Industrial, Robert DePiro. We've been working together for well over 10 years now in different functions, created Core 1 a few years back, and currently oversee and manage and own about 1 million square feet of industrial assets, pretty much primarily throughout New Jersey, up into southern Connecticut, and down through northern Virginia. Ideally located or pretty much situated in southern New Jersey and the greater Philadelphia markets. The average building size in our portfolio, it's about 80,000 square feet per building. We don't specialize in the large distribution centers, leasing to the Amazons and the last mile delivery users. Most of our tenants are local manufacturing, assembly, carpentry kind of users where they're servicing the, more of the local or regional footprint rather than a distribution, whatever that footprint would be. So the background in Core 1 is, we look for the smaller, more regional development or industrial opportunities. One of the recent projects we just successfully transacted on was a building down in Mount Laurel. That building was 110,000 square feet, but it consisted of 5 separate units. Each unit consisted of, give or take, 20,000 square feet, just to have round numbers. We had 3 tenants in there when we bought it. We turned the entire building over to new tenants in our 12 to 18 month ownership. As the leases rolled, some of the tenants moved out, they downsized, they shifted around, and we had to repurpose the entire building. The tenants that we marketed it to and ended up backfilling it with were local service-oriented businesses. Some were national businesses, but they were all local-oriented, where they sold to the local population. Richelieu was one of them, Richelieu Hardware. So this was a last mile. People would come in, touch, feel the product, and then they'd be able to buy the counters before their contractor fabricated them. The other one was Empire Today. They used it as a sort of last mile point of sale for their operations. People would order it online or order it from their location, and then they would get the material from that location and bring it out to the site. And another was a local manufacturer that we ended up backfilling that space with, where it was excess warehousing and also assembly that they used the building for. So we successfully turned that over. We created about 25 new jobs in these, and that's new jobs, additional from what was already there when we bought the building, over our 18-month ownership. At the end of the day, we stabilized the building and, we ended up moving on from it, but it was a successful transaction for, I think, everybody. This site, it really fits our mold. It's a site that doesn't warrant a large big box industrial building. There's site hinderings, there's hindering factors that are hindering a large big box location there. And actually, before we get to that, we'll get to the location of the site with where it sits on Route 38. It sits, I call it a sort of a tweener market for retail, which is why we're in front of the board here, the mayor and council, for the area in need of redevelopment. Is I don't think this lends itself to retail development. Limited access off of 38. You have a jug handle in front of the site rather than a true 4-way intersection. So the cost to bring that up to a 4-way intersection hinders the retail development. That's one. 2, if you go basically from the creek and just east of the creek down really to the next main intersection, which is Arc Road and 38, is where you get the next large retail pocket of, a larger big box retail location. Everything else in between that is a little bit of a hodgepodge, right? You get some motels, you get some service-oriented uses, you have an office use right next to us, or an office zone that's next to us, which is being used as an auto shop, and I think a cat distributor just got approved for the site next to us. So it's sort of a mixed bag that you have on 38 in front of us. But if you take that and then go down to the site, on the left-hand side here, you see where the bifurcation line is from general commercial to industrial. It really splits the one larger site in 2. You also have a large area of wetlands. If I don't talk into the microphone, is that? Okay, a large area of wetlands in the back right section, which abuts the river and the railroad. And then there is a drainage from 38 that separates the site again, really diagonally across the entire site. So working with these potential issues or issues that the site lends and access to and from 38 is how we designed what we and our professionals use to design the site around, which lended itself to 2 or 3 really nice sized, mid-sized industrial buildings. And these industrial buildings, they aren't designed to take the large big box 3PLs or distribution centers. These are really designed where they can be separated and demised into smaller units if need be. So you have just to get to my notes here.
Can I stop you for 1 second, please?
Yes.
So this picture right here, can you show me where that is on that other map?
Sure, I'll put them side by side.
Yeah, just,
The regional map or the map of the site.
The one that he just put it in which you, that one right there, yes.
Key in
Scott,
on
just
the jug
stand
handle.
back a
Ken,
tiny bit.
look at the jug
There's
handle.
Bancroft. Here's the jug handle, Bancroft.
So you can see the dotted line in the middle of the left exhibit?
Right,
Is the
okay.
dotted line in the middle of the right exhibit.
So this is the existing park.
That's what I thought it was, okay.
Which is actually where this new building.
Okay.
That
So-
helps orient.
As Bob was talking about before, two of these buildings are 100% as of right. We could take them to the planning board, move forward with approvals on that, really yielding no value on the front lot from general commercial because it has no access to and from 38 then, and it's a complete landlocked site because the access from 38 is just not economical. So from this site plan, we've developed a building which is, and I'll use round numbers right now, it's 30,000 square feet, which is building A. Is it 35? 3560, which is the bottom right, which is building B, and then building C is 45,000 square feet.
So I have a question.
Yes.
That small parcel of land to the left-hand side of the jug handle, what are the dimensions of that? To the right, go to the right. Okay, there's
So-
the jug, see the jug handle right there where it intersects with 38? Now go to the left.
So this lot,
Yeah, that's correct.
this lot and this lot are not coming with the transaction. We do not own these two.
Understood. What is
So
it?
we have access to these two. This is nothing, it's just raw land.
Raw land, would that be considered highway commercial as far as our planning
That
is
small
concerned?
piece would be, but it's not developable. It's just a small lot that you wouldn't be able to have access into it from the road because DOT would never allow it. It's too close to the interchange.
Okay.
So this is staying with the small retail building that sits next to it.
And for reference, that's the Health Haven.
Yes.
This building is the health haven and the common areas.
And then we would be proposing access, which we've inquired with DOT to make sure it's one, far enough away from the interchange, and two, designed it so it can handle truck and car traffic coming off of 38, would be access to and from 38 here, and then access from Mary Way, which we currently have right away to, from where it ends here on and over what is currently that bus parking lot that's back there today, and then into the other proposed development, the other lot.
Thank you.
So again, we designed these buildings with the intent that it would be more of the local service-oriented businesses. Fits into our mold and our investment style and strategy a lot better than, you know, what you see on other sites, other larger sites. And look, sites handle it, and that's fine. This site, I think, can accommodate what we are proposing here, and I think it would be a great use for the two parcels, two development parcels, and then the two access parcels as well that we'll be using off of 38.
Can you tell me the distance between the building and the road? What kind of buffering, in other words, will there be between the building to the right?
The larger building.
Yeah, the larger.
Roughly, this just going off my fingers here, probably about 150 feet to the finish point, from the right of way to the corner.
And I presume at this point there haven't been any traffic studies regarding what you may expect.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Correct. We've inquired, we've talked it over. We understand it will be a concern as we proceed through this process. Right now, knowing that all truck traffic goes, you know, down back roads and through Mary Way to access this park, you know, we figured utilizing Route 38 would actually alleviate a lot of truck traffic off the back roads.
Understand. Thank you.
Rob, maybe you would speak to, in your experience with these size buildings, would you have more of a variety of the sizes of vehicles that would utilize this type of development?
You have everything. So just to give you a live example of a 30,000-foot tenant in Mount Laurel, Richelieu, which is a national tenant, they would bring in one to two tractor trailers a day at most, and everything else would be going out on box trucks for deliveries, or contractors would be coming and picking them up. So most of their product would have to get fabricated. They actually use a fabricator here in Hainesport. So they would load up a box truck with however many pieces of, you know, cabinet or countertops, ship it to them, fabricate them, come back, or send them out to the contractor. So, the truck traffic, it's completely unknown. I mean, it depends on the user, obviously, but with them being smaller footprints, most likely lends itself to less truck traffic from large tractor trailers and more accommodating to the box trucks for local deliveries.
And what do you expect the number of employees would be added, given those 3 buildings that may access Route 38?
It's
You don't know
a
yet.
totally loaded question. I can't answer that at this point. I mean, it could be as few as, a couple per unit to who knows, right?
Depends who goes in there.
Yeah, it depends if it's going to be assembly and manufacturing, or if it's going to be, more of point of sale kind of thing or, showroom where you have actually more customers than employees. So,
Thank you.
And you had said that the businesses that you had rattled off earlier seemed to be warehouse, showroom, display type of thing.
yeah.
Is that what you're anticipating with this, or still based on?
That's what we would anticipate.
Right, okay.
If you go to just the 4 buildings right next door, which are 4 40,000-foot buildings that mirror each other, you have cabinet manufacturers, you have GPS, which has a location, GPS, which uses it as an inbound and outbound storage location. You have ABC Supply, which has a retail location on 38, but uses that building as their warehouse. And then you have Cryovation, which is, manufacturing. They're making high-end, I guess, features that go into the gas world. So you have a little bit of everybody, but it's more local manufacturing and assembly based rather than distribution based.
Your Route 38 entrance, would that be right away for everyone on Merriway to use, or just your, how would that be designed?
Technically, it would just be access for the 3 building point that we're proposing here.
So understanding that, that wouldn't really relieve any traffic that's presently on Hainesport Mount Laurel Road going up Merriway then?
We have a good relationship with the guys who own the 4 buildings in Merriway. I mean, I'd have no problem talking to them about that if, that was something the board wanted us to do.
Yeah, that's important. Because the residents on Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, they get a lot of the business traffic that's going to that park, and to have another access would be great for them.
100%. I agree with that. So the Stevens are here who own the site and we're buying the land from. But we've dealt with them now for well over 6 months dealing with, the access points, and we thought that was going to be a great solution for the park.
Maybe one more thing we can speak to, Rob. Would you say the buildings that have, visibility from 38, we could design in a way that would be, aesthetically appropriate for the location?
Absolutely. I mean, with these buildings being a little smaller in stature than the big distribution centers, we're not proposing 40-foot clear buildings. It's going to be in the ballpark of 30, 32, which from 150 feet with proper landscaping is just any retail building almost. I mean, you have some step-ups and features that can make it look a little different as well, but they'll be aesthetically pleasing from 38. And there's enough room to provide buffer too, if you guys wanted to see that. I mean, there's a berm currently, I think, that is in place that could stay in place. You could have a nice berm off of 38 that you don't even see the development. So
That's great.
Really depends on what the mayor and council would like to see in the plan.
And this is strictly subjective to who comes to you at a later date. You don't have anyone in mind at the present time. Nobody's approached you that if you build here, we will come.
So we're doing a development down in Mount Laurel, or we're going for approvals for a development in Mount Laurel, which is 76,000 square feet. So I've talked to a few users out there. They have all been more local and regional cabinet companies, groups that are in currently 20 to 30 or 40,000 feet that are looking to grow and stay in the market. I think an issue that you see in the market today is everything's going so big that it's really limiting the options for the local businesses. So by everything going to large distribution centers and the Amazon-based kind of footprints, the small mom and pops are losing out, and in turn, really getting priced out of the market completely. So we think these are actually a great solution for really a lot of the businesses that are in the park just on the other side of Merriway that are in 10, 5, 20,000 square feet that are looking to grow in the area. it's hard to pick up a manufacturing facility and move it 20 or 30 miles. You lose employees. So if someone's looking to grow in town and doesn't have an option, they're stuck.
So I'm sorry, Robert, did you say that the state was favorable, or looking at that little parcel of property, a little piece of ground there for access into this development? Have you already?
I'll defer to my specialist on that one. I don't know if they're in favor of it, but we designed it sort of as of,
Regarding the new access here,
Uh,
this would be, the new driveway would be here, and this is the existing truck handle.
Oh, okay. I was my understanding that that parcel of ground right there
This
is where.
parcel is not gonna be touched, no,
Oh.
it's definitely way too close to this intersection.
And that's,
for-
okay, so it wouldn't be allowed there. All right, so it's going over.
farther down past the existing.
All right.
when you pass Health Haven, I think it is, on the right-hand side is 2 grass fields, right when you get over the culvert on 38. Those are the 2 grass fields that we'd be proposing to access.
And there's existing curb cuts on the state highway there that, you know, at this point are no longer used, so we'd be closing two of them, maintaining one of them,
Okay.
or modifying one.
So that's where that old marine distributor was? Ken, are you out there? That's where the old marine guy was? I don't want to enter, just you can nod, you don't have to
Yes.
enter testimony, okay.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get my bearings. So, you're showing the back parcel, and you ran your hand on the overhead picture of the
The wetlands.
topography. You said wetlands, but the wetlands, you only kind of ran a little through the middle. What about the rest of the right, the back parcel to the right? Yeah, all in there. Is that unbuildable?
So the wetlands, and we're still going through confirming, delineating the wetlands as they exist today. There is you said their existing culvert runs through the site, and that accepts drainage from Route 38. So that, but once you get into here, this is the area of delineated wetlands that would be unbuildable, and then there's,
But they're still laying that away.
but then you're getting closer to the creek, and it's
So you don't,
Setbacks and everything.
doesn't,
buffers from the wetland.
doesn't look good then?
Exactly. It's just not developable. Once you get there.
How close is the property there, that building,
Yeah, they found
second
it.
building, how close is that to
There's a
that,
woodpecker there.
to the water outlet there to the right?
Gussie's place.
To the water?
Yes.
Again, I think the wetlands are probably in this area, so using my hands as a scale, probably about 200 to do not believe.
And the property in which you're building on, is that, and that's already built, it's already cleared and that type of thing at that point? I mean, it's
So
hard to,
this is an aerial overlay of the existing property.
Right.
Here's the building here, it's all, it's trees right now.
okay,
Same for this area. This, the first building A is over the bus parking area.
right, okay.
From the bus parking lot down to the wooded area, you have about a 12-foot grade change from the current bus parking lot down to the wooded section. So dealing with topo and wetlands and trying to, develop the site is difficult. But I think, again, working around the existing drainage, the grade change, this provides a really good solution and option for the land.
So it looks, so the one's pretty simple, right, to the number 2. Number 1, you'd have to clear, right? And number 3, the one up there closer, the one at the top, that looks like a little more work there because you have the water not far from it, et cetera. Do you have to build 3? Is that what it is? Would you build 1? Would you build 2? Why don't you build 4? Why 3?
4 would just be way too much.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, this, again, in working around the site constraints, we thought 3 buildings really fit nicely on the site. It really, from a grading change, it's really a net neutral on soil in or off, on or off the site. It's really just grading what we have, and we're confirming that, but it's really just grading what we have there. The back left site, the top site actually sits higher, and then the right of the bottom right building sits higher. So it would really just be leveling the site out after, clearing it, obviously. So from a retaining wall perspective, Scott, and everything else, the site, elevation-wise is manageable. It's just really the storm drain that bifurcates the site, and then obviously the zoning line.
So maybe I should rephrase my question. And why, you want 3? You don't want 2 is something that you're not interested in. You want to do 3.
This is
what it
the
is.
proposed plan is what we're looking for.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So I kind of want to throw it out there right now. It looks like a lot of vegetation between your bottom building and I guess that's the jug handle there. And I'd certainly like to make sure that we keep almost every tree we can. How far from your building do you feel you need to clear? How many feet when you build?
From the building, plus the drive and parking, we're probably looking at the 60
So,
foot.
oh, you have parking in the front? Because I can't see it from
Sorry,
here.
yeah, there's parking along the front here, yes.
Yeah, so it's pretty close to
Yeah.
that jug
But
handle.
there, again, as Rob mentioned, there is an existing berm here that we're going to look to maintain then as much vegetation as possible until we get to the proposed berm on there.
And the berm is fully grown right now. I mean, there's trees that are grown all over
Well,
the berm,
I'm
so
gonna-
we would not have
I
to.
want to leave that out there.
Is there any chance that the building can be moved, is that north? Yes, it's north, yeah.
As you move it north, you start to encroach on the wetlands. And we can,
If you moved it north, I mean, what is the setback required so that you don't infringe or impede upon the wetland?
So,
Can't even see it.
Again, we're confirming the exact location of wetlands, but there is regulated buffers from that wetlands of 50, 100 feet, whatever they be, depending on the classification. So again, as we move this north, we're getting closer to those buffers.
So if you move the building north, is that all parking I see on the northern side of that building?
This is identified now as trailer space, storage area. Again, it would be dependent on the tenant, the final layout of that.
Understood. So is it possible that that parking can be moved to the southern side of the building and the building can be moved northward?
We can
trailer
definitely look at that.
parking?
You know, it comes down to
Well,
operational
he's
things.
gonna.
No trailers.
Gotta clear it.
That's what trailer, he's got trailer parking there.
the trailer
We
parking
don't
is there
attract the
to,
trailers.
But what I'm trying to do is create more of a buffer between the road and the building.
Yeah, but not with
But you're
trailers.
taking down
right?
more trees.
Well, not with trailers, but if we can move the building north.
Again, that's something we would be looking to work with you on during the course of the planning process. This is exactly the conversation we're looking to
Well,
have.
we're a little sensitive to big giant buildings on Route 38,
Sure.
in case you can't guess, okay?
I've seen the new big giant buildings.
Yeah.
So these are little, like, smaller.
Unfortunately, there was nothing there, it was just flat.
Right.
So,
we're 100% sensitive to that. which
So-
is, again, why we're not proposing to culvert that entire creek and build a big building over it. And we'll work with Langen on figuring out how we can, because once we delineate the wetlands, we can work on moving the building as far back
Yeah,
on the
I mean-
site and maintaining a natural buffer.
Right.
We can plant trees that are larger than 5 or 6 feet too to buffer the building, that's fine. And they do grow in quick, but we can work on keeping a buffer
Yeah,
in between.
I
the
mean,
building and the
the market is bringing stuff like you're bringing, like they brought that warehouse. Unfortunately, we're not getting applications for, lower retail type material. And I don't think the residents, really want to turn this into a,
Warehouse.
high warehouses, there was a lot of political
Yeah, and that's my
bantering about
concern.
that building there. So whatever you can do to push it back and keep some trees in front of it, it might pass, might pass.
But just for some context and to give you some perspective, the new warehouse building up by ShopRite is here at this size, and our parcel is here. So
Yep.
just it's a much different type of development. The existing buildings are 10% the size of this.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a monster, but,
Yeah, well, your setback is 135, and the setback for E-Logistics next to ShopRite, I believe, is about 200 feet. I mean, it's only approximately 65-foot difference, but it will be a lower building that you're proposing. Again, if you can move it north, it would really benefit our community.
And I appreciate that feedback, and we'll absolutely accommodate as much as we can. We can work on trying to relocate some of the trailer parking that's back there too, and push it as far from 38 as possible.
And I think some of these conditions and standards we can work through this with an economic development meeting, and maybe perhaps that's our next step. We can start
Okay.
getting in the weeds on these issues with them directly, with our professionals as well.
Need to get
Again,
Mr.
our
Taylor
biggest,
involved.
Hmm?
sorry?
No, I said we'd get Mr. Taylor involved.
He's chomping at the bit.
Jump on in.
You know me, I like to stay quiet.
Yeah, I agree with the administrator. I guess, have you had a chance to really look at this?
We did. We actually had a preliminary Zoom meeting with the applicant's team to sort of go over and lay out what some of the issues are. So as Mr. Baranowski did indicate, the redevelopment process would afford the town the flexibility to dictate what the buildings look like, exactly what the buffer is preserved and maximized, and also to the extent that it would be appropriate to extend Mary Way out to really try to relieve all of the other traffic. So those are things that can be done through the redevelopment process that through sort of a traditional planning board, zoning board process are much more difficult to effectuate.
So what exactly then are we voting on tonight? To accept this as a
We're not
redevelopment?
There's no vote,
Vote on
it's just that, they're just introducing themselves.
Introduction.
Yeah.
Are you asking committee, though, to consider whether they wish to consider for the next meeting, are you asking them to consider resolutions that would refer the matter to the planning board for an investigation?
If the governing body feels that's the appropriate next step, Mr. Gillespie, I think that would be the ask.
Well, first that we, again, John, is it appropriate that we have an economic development meeting before the economic development committee reports back to this committee, and then take it to
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, I don't know what the time frame is. You own the properties already?
No, we're under contract.
We're under contract.
All right.
So what happens is the Economic Development Committee is made up of 2 committee members. They don't speak for the planning board. Of course, our engineer and our planner are here, and a lot of things are worked out, and mainly between you and our planner. And the administrator's there, and we can't guarantee anything, but, you know, if our planner's happy, pretty much our planning board gets happy too.
If that's the next step in the flow chart, we're good with that.
But there's no guarantees.
Understood. I haven't seen Mr. Taylor take his red pen out yet. We're-
Oh, I already have.
That's because there's no escrow posted yet.
They're very, very.
Post the escrow, you'll see the red pen.
So you would pay, you would be billed for our planner. I don't know if the engineer would show up. We try to keep them to an hour, and a lot gets worked out, a lot.
Yeah, that's a great next step, and we appreciate it.
We're amenable to that process.
All right, we'll be in touch to schedule the meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council,
Thank you for coming in.
We appreciate it.
Okay, now we have a public hearing on the Green Acres grant application.
Yes, so Green Acres has announced a round of funding for development and stewardship and other various grant opportunities. And as you recall, last month I had requested approval to hire CGP&H to assist with the grant writing. And we are now prepared to write the grant and submit the grant. We're kind of under a time constraint. Initially, it was due June 30th, but the state has extended it to July 15th, so we have a little bit more breathing room. But that's simply to get our cost estimations down. We're working with Scott's planner, Steve Lennon. He came out to the site today, but the grant application, again, will be for remediation, fixing the wetlands, I should say the flooding area in front of pedestrian bridge number 1, which we've been experiencing for the past several years. It seems to be getting worse. So we've identified that, to come up with a solution to fix that so it's not rendered useless when we have rain and snow events. And then we've also added renovations to our concession building restrooms and some amenities for there. So it could be up to $500,000. So By the regulations of Green Acres, we have to hold a public hearing on that, and we have to log the minutes, and if anybody has any questions, we have to answer those, and we have to provide that with our grant submission.
Okay, so at this point in time, do we open up for public discussion? Does anybody in the room have anything to ask with regards to the Green Acres grant? Tish?
Yes, and as Ms. Kelly comes up, I do want to say we've requested letters of support from various organizations, including the Environmental Commission, our soccer program, the lacrosse program, the Recreation Commission, and the Joint Land Use Board, and any other residents or individuals that you may think of that could potentially help us with letters of support.
Okay, Letitia Kelly, 525 Lumberton Road. I'm the chairman of the Hainesport Township Environmental Commission. I think this is a very good grant. The flooding has increased. In fact, I know of one child actually, that fell in there and was pretty deep, much to the parents' distress. But I really think it does help the recreation, because if it says in this grant, you are going to connect it to Long Bridge Park. There is kind of a connection off of Beacon Road, but it's very unclear. And if that can be, cleared up and really finalized, that would be great. The other thing that is very beneficial would be the upgrade of the bathrooms. And, that just helps everybody that uses that property.
Right.
So the Environmental Commission is in favor of this grant, and I am going to submit a letter to Paula Costco right now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there anyone online that has anything to
We
say?
do have 4 residents online.
No.
If anyone is online and would like to speak on the Green Acres application?
Nope. Okay, so,
Yes,
Oh,
hi.
okay. Oh.
I'm Logan Fingler. I live over in Lakeside. This is the first council session I'm attending. If it would be appropriate to talk about that warehouse plan.
No.
No.
I
No,
have some comments.
This is a hearing on the Green Acres application only right now?
Can you repeat that? The microphone.
You can speak later.
Sure, this is just a hearing on the Green Acres application. There'll be an opportunity for public comment later in the meeting on the item that you want to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'll hold it open.
okay, so do I ask for,
You can just close it.
just close it? Okay, so we'll close comments. So now,
Need a motion to approve, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Before we get involved with the cannabis discussion, I noticed the state police are in the building. Would you like to come up and speak, Sergeant Antonucci?
Done. You're done. We'll leave you out to the agenda. You don't know that rule?
Yeah, he's a big competitor.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry we were late. We had an incident that occurred while we were on our way, and we had to stop and assist. With me is Lieutenant Brian Miller. He's our station commander at Bordentown. Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Nothing of significance to report in regard to crime or criminal activity other than the incident that happened at the table in Tavern. Since then, we have taken steps so that this does not happen, such as increased patrols in the area and having troopers present at closing to assist in dispersing the crowds. After this weekend, there were no issues down
Good.
there. Another good thing we had was our troopers and detectives conducted a great investigation that assisted in closing out several vehicle burglaries in Hainesport Township. Arrests were made in connection with the investigation of the felony lane gang. I don't know if you've heard on media outlets. But they are a transient group that goes around. They're all over the United States, and basically they committed vehicle burglary, a couple vehicle burglaries in Hainesport, and after a good investigation, they were arrested.
Great,
Great job.
yeah.
Thank you.
And as always, remember to continue to lock your vehicles and do not leave any valuables in them or key fobs in them. Also, troopers from Bordentown Station were active in the community. We attended several events in Hainesport, such as Memorial Day wreath laying ceremony, the bicycle safety event, and we were here at Community Day as well.
Yes, you were. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
No
Appreciate it.
problem.
Thank you.
If I might ask, we all want to maintain the peacefulness of Hainesport that you help bring about. Is there any standardized flow of information to our administrator as far as any incidents, especially at any drinking establishment? Do you have a practice of updating, the towns that you patrol in?
Yes, I maintain contact with Paula. And
Okay, so if there's an incident, she would,
if
she would
if
be
there's
able
an
to get-
incident, I will
You'll let her know?
apprise her of any information, and she will do the same.
Because as you
For us
know,
as well.
there's conditions we can set on some of these licenses to help mitigate, the trouble.
Mhm.
We'd need some documentation if it's available to make those judgments as a committee.
Mhm. Well, as of right now, we've had 3 reported incidents in the past year. One involved a fight, and then another involved another issue with a weapon was shown, and then the past incident. In all these incidents, the perpetrators were located and arrested
Oh,
with help from the bar.
okay, okay.
Giving us access to surveillance and whatnot. So,
Thank you. We appreciate everything you guys do for us.
no problems.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes,
May I make a comment?
sure.
Sir, I would like to personally thank the state police. I mean, I've lived here all my life, and you've been a very big presence in this township. I truly appreciated the fact that you were at Hainesport, Jeff. The mounted police, they all played a part in bringing your presence in the community and showing that you really cared about our community. And that includes those that are patrolling.
Thank you.
Yep, here, here. Thank you.
Very well said, Tish.
So motivated.
They don't have to hang around. I don't think they will have to.
All right, so with that, I'll open discussion for the cannabis industry in Hainesport. Anybody want to say anything?
I'd like to make some, I guess, I don't know if they're observations, but just some information that I gleaned from some reading with regard to Colorado. Colorado has a $6.5 billion cannabis industry, 3,000 licensed cannabis businesses, 40,000 people licensed to work in them. Since May of 2014, sales tax collection has surpassed $1 billion. The revenue is being used for things like substance abuse prevention and treatment, preventing youth consumption, protecting public health and safety, investing in public school construction, and law enforcement. You have correlation and you have causation as two things to consider with regard to suicide and cannabis use. There seems to be evidence that cannabis use leads to more suicide, just from some of my reading. Is it a gateway drug? Apparently, most people would say yes. The thing is that illegal marijuana can be purchased anyway, and we're just obviously now presented with this genie that's out of the bottle now called recreational cannabis, and just with those things in mind, I'd like to just let the committee do their thing now, and if there are any other different experiences. With regard to experiences, I mean, I've been talking to our residents, and I know that some people have different comments made by their residents, but you know, my residents seem to be ready to lick the poison frog leg and break through to the other side. I'd like to see what our other members' experiences are with regard to the residents they've talked to.
Well, my understanding is, I think Paula mentioned it, 65% of the residents voted in favor of was it a referendum at the time? I don't think any of our committee people had a 65% plurality in their election. So it's a pretty sound, resonating, you know, set of opinions. So I personally have no opinion on it. The only thing that I don't want to see happen is, and it's a purely financial matter for me. I'm not going to judge alcohol use. I'm not going to judge any of that sort of stuff, because then we shouldn't have liquor stores either. Moderation is a good thing. So I don't want to come down on either side of that issue. But I think that, you know, I was elected to make decisions in Hainesport, and this is a big decision. This is a big financial decision. How it's going to affect us is going to be seen in the future. It's not going to be something in the next year or two, or long after we're gone. The decisions that we made here are going to affect this town. Maybe not at all, because maybe nothing will come. Odds are we probably aren't going to get any sort of cannabis business here. We're not a big town with lots of space like Shamong to set up a growing operation. But nevertheless, the signals that I think we need to send out to potential developers, I mean, I never thought I'd see 3 warehouses on that spot either tonight. I never thought I'd see a super warehouse over there so who can tell the future, you know? So, you know, I would urge the committee to take a look at it. I'm not going to drive a stake in the ground and stake my relationship with the committee on their vote. I'm not going to urge either way, but I just think it's a decision that we, you know, if we don't send the right signals now, I mean, it's not a switch that you can just flip on and decide, you know, hey, we're ready, and everybody's going to come running, you know, after the cat's out of the bag and they've picked their properties and done their thing. So, you know, John said something resounding to me, and, you know, you left me with the impression with what you said, and I hope I got the right impression, that we have ultimate police powers over the particulars of the license. Am I correct in what I drew from what you were saying?
By police power, I meant you should have a separate ordinance that says we're going to have it or we're not going to have it, just like you have a liquor license ordinance, right? That's a police power ordinance. And then you also have places where it's permitted under your zoning. So you have 2 separate sections. So I do recommend that.
You know, in the state's ultimate wisdom, I mean, I think if we, you know, we all kind of like to laugh at the state, but hey, who runs the liquor industry? Who sets up the licensing for the liquor? It's the state, you know, and I think they do a pretty good job of it myself, but, you know, we always like to beat up the state. So, you know, as far as worried, like what's going to happen and this and that, you know, I'm personally not that worried. And, you know, based on what you said, we can set the hours, we can set where it is, we can set pretty much almost all the conditions, and the state will pick up and handle and handle the rest. And, if we were lucky enough, I mean, I would just talking, I'm in business and I'm thinking it wouldn't be unreasonable for, if we had the space for a place to grow, a $10 million revenue, certainly to justify the type of building that they would have to have, they'd have to be bigger than $10 million worth of revenue, in my opinion, to pay the kind of rent and overhead that some of these places are gonna, again, I don't even know if we're gonna get one, but I think, when you start looking up at the potential tax revenue that these municipalities can get, it's a lot of money. And I could see $1 million, not unrealistic in tax revenue from some of these places. And I just think, if things go a certain way, and I'm going to shut my mouth after this, and we start hearing about Lumberton sending, guys in here, and Mount Holly sending guys in here, we're going to be not happy that we didn't take advantage, or who's ever in power, at the time, after we're long forgotten, is going to, but again, I don't think it's a switch. You can just say, no, we're going to opt out. We're going to opt out. It's a signal. It's not a switch. It's a signal you're sending to all these guys that are lining up, all the money that's lining up to go into this business. And these guys are smart guys. They're watching, and their plans, like this building, and I know we have a couple realtors in here, they plan many years ahead. They just don't say, oh, we're going to go into the cannabis business tomorrow because Hainesport just, okayed it. These plans take years and years and years to come to fruition. So I'm just going to that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, we did have a 65% approval of cannabis in the state. I do know a few people that want it in the state, but not in our town. So
I think it was here, though. Was it here?
Well, that's what I meant,
here.
65% of the people,
It was
but I
here.
do know people
It
in
was
this
here.
town
Well,
that
of
voted
course.
it because they wanted it in the state but not in our town. I don't know who that or how that.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
They were, so the vote was to make it legal for New Jersey, not make it legal for Hainesport.
Right.
So, and I've had discussions similar to what
Right.
Jerry's saying. Right.
So my concern is, as for a grower, the environmental, what you have to do environmentally to treat the water that comes off it is very impactful to the environment. I don't see any place in Hainesport we can handle that. Retail, that comes with its own problems. Where can we put it and have the proper buffering from residential areas? And plus, retail, you're going to get 2% of the retail business. We're much better off if we considered warehouse or distribution where we get 1% of 10 times the volume without the foot traffic. But with that being said, no one can apply for a license yet. Nobody knows the rules yet. And the word opt out, the way the state said opt out, it's not saying no. It says we're not making a decision yet. And no one is going to come to us and put any money down or buy a property if they don't know if they're going to get a license. So I don't think we should be in that much of a hurry. Now, I just want to explain. Opt out means we can wait and discuss it again. It could be next time.
When the regulations come out.
If you say no, it means no. If you don't say anything, you're allowing anything to come in. So by not doing anything, you're allowing any cannabis business in your town. And cannabis Uber comes in whether we do anything or not.
But I gotta
Well,
make
let
a
me-
point
let
of
me
order.
finish
You're
my-
mischaracterizing allowing anything to come in. That is not
If we
accurate.
don't do, John,
Not
if we don't do anything, is that?
It's not
and
accurate.
By the deadline, you're basically allowing any business to come in, is that correct? Any cannabis business, correct?
Any of those licensed.
Yeah, but you haven't zoned for it. You haven't done anything.
Well,
So they
that's-
just
that's
can't.
the risk.
Huh?
Doesn't matter, they
That's the
tell you
risk.
commercial.
Right.
That's the risk you run.
So that's my problem is the opt-out doesn't mean opt-out. And right now, no one can apply for a license. They don't know the rules of getting a license, and I don't know anybody, like the warehouse people that are in here, they have an initial investment because they know they could potentially build. I don't know anybody's going to invest in the cannabis industry in any town until they know they can get a license. And we don't know the rules yet. So that's my only part about opting out is not saying no. I've heard a lot on the radio where people say, This town opted out, that's opted out. Anybody in the cannabis industry right now that's investigating it knows opt-out does not mean no.
Well, it means no for now.
Right, it means we can make a decision, discuss it next week, and as more information comes out, and when they actually approve licensing and the rules, we're gonna know ahead of time before it's voted on. We'll get that information and we'll consider it almost simultaneous upon their approval, what we wanna do. But frankly, I just think we should look at something that gives us 1% of a higher volume, similar to, let's say we got Gala wine in our town. Nobody knows it's there. The truck comes in, trucks go out. Minimal impact. But if we got 1% of every dollar that went through Gala wine, it's a lot more than 2% of a retail. Much more. Like I said, there's no licenses yet and there's no rules. I'm leaning toward opting out, but I don't like that word. Or we should have a committee that looks into this further so we can be ready and we can get our professionals involved and see what everybody else thinks. I just don't think we have a place for retail or growing.
You want me to go, Mayor? Okay. I mentioned this at the last meeting. I just have difficulty saying yes until I see what's between the title and the signature line. The regulations haven't been released, so well, what am I saying yes to? In my right conscience, I just have a hard time doing that. So until they come out with the regulations, then I think we can look at it and say, okay, I like this here, I don't like this here, I like this here. I think I want to do something different here. We can do this as Hainsport. We can adjust this. We opt in, that's the risk we take. We're at their mercy. I agree with Jerry in saying if we opt out, just the word opt out, I don't like it either. It's just like we just want to wait and see what the regulations are. I mean, that to me, so that means you're either in or you're out. We're out, but out means you can change your mind once the regulations come out. And John, am I saying everything correctly here?
It's easier to change your mind from going out and then in on what it is you want to do.
Right.
Right? If you don't do anything, as Jerry said earlier, you're in on everything.
And you're at the mercy of whatever the laws are. The regulations are when they come out.
The state really has put municipalities in this predicament where if you're not ready to identify A, which of the license uses you want to welcome to your town, and B, where you want them welcomed, right, where you want to cite them, then you're not ready. And, the state's had a couple of years to put this legislation together, and they give towns basically 5-6 months to figure out what to do with it. So the opt-out is what buys you additional time.
Right, right.
And then you can decide by the end of the year. I think what we talked about at the last meeting was because the regulations haven't been promulgated yet, because there are no pathways to follow that allow you to make a more informed decision, that it's likely that you would opt out. Remember, we only have a meeting in July to introduce and a meeting in August to adopt. But that you would continue to work towards the identification of what types of activity you are willing to do and where you want to do them. So I think that conversation continues. And I think the other hope was that somewhere within that process, the state would promulgate the regulations.
Well, I think the very first thing that came into my mind when it first came to fruition, I turned to Scott and said, do we have any place for this anywhere? I don't know if anything ever came out of it. We're able to act quick. Again, I don't even know if we have a place for it. I don't even know. What do you think?
So we've done a decent amount of research on this, and can this go anywhere is the policy decision. So yes, it can go wherever you all think it's appropriate. Now, that being said, I know, I just threw the ball back into your court. Throughout the country, a lot of other municipalities and counties and states set up, and in particular for the warehousing or processing and the class 1 through 4, so not retail. The biggest concerns there really seem to be, do we have enough water? Can we handle the wastewater? Are we going to create light issues on our neighbors from grow lights that are necessary? And is there going to be odor from this? So conditional use standards can be set up to address all of those. And we talked a little bit about in those industrial zones, are we particularly concerned whether or not somebody is making a fiberglass hull of a boat that has some smell associated with it, but if it is properly mechanically filtered, are we okay with that? Are we then similarly okay if someone makes made wine or made vodka or produce cannabis, either cultivating inside? So there are a lot of those issues, and we have researched a lot of the conditional use standards. So the warehouse and distribution and the wholesale are pretty simple. A pallet of cannabis gummies is not much different than a pallet that is being stored in the CVS storage facility. And it's really not that impactful. So the warehousing is a pretty simple lift. Where we start to get into a more complex decision is when we start to talk about retail. And that's not dissimilar to if we talk about a combination Wawa gas station. Those have impacts, so do fast food, so do a lot of other uses. A lot of the uses that municipalities throughout the nation have used are, A, we only want it in our highest commercial level district only, which would be our highway commercial zoning district. We talked about the possibility of the most likely location, because we don't want to have it near residences, would be on the state highway only. A lot of municipalities are putting a separation distance from residential land uses, anywhere from 250 feet to 500 feet or more. As a more compact municipality, unlike Chemung, those distances would need to be a little bit tighter here as we sort of went through this process. Some of those other parameters are, what is the separation distance that we want to have from any cannabis retailer to a school, a public park, playground, or other feature? So those can be anywhere from 500 feet up to 1,000 feet. For a school, for example, we know that we have drug-free school zones of 1,000 feet here in New Jersey. Part of this legislation modified the definition. So in New Jersey, cannabis no longer qualifies as one of those drugs that would violate the New Jersey drug-free school zone parameters. However, federally, that still exists. So going through those issues, and whether it is through a subcommittee or another group, understanding that this committee is, at least I'm hearing, receptive to the idea of, with the right regulations set up by the state, with the right land use regulations, this could have merit, and it might be something that may be appropriate. So there are a lot of those conditional use standards. The filtration and the odor is something that needs to be done both at the retail and those manufacturing, because it can be, if untreated, it can have negative impacts. So yes, we've done a considerable amount of this, and the answer is we can work through some of those conditional use standards to come up with something that all 5 of you might be comfortable with, or to find something that would be most appropriate for Hainesport.
Well, I for one would defer to any member of the committee, and especially, I'm sure John's going to look through it. Once the regulations come out, you guys can, look through that and get a comfort level, because I'm sure they're going to be huge, and you're going to need to be a lawyer to understand half of them. So I'm real
Thank
happy
God.
real happy to let you guys understand, and if you need a comfort level, understand it. Now, as far as the utilities are concerned, I mean, water and sewer are a condition of pretty much every development. I think they're at least, I don't get to see the checklist anymore. We developed a checklist a long time ago where water and sewer were right on there, and if you didn't have water and you didn't have sewer, or Bill Dunn didn't think his sewer plant could handle your project, it didn't happen, you know? So, I would defer things like that to the people putting the money up that are smart enough to know, you know, where they're putting their money, and they're far smarter than me about their own project. But again, if the committee feels that they need to review those regulations, I don't have a problem with that. I just think how much of a window we may lose, if there's any hope, if there's any, you know, any chance of it.
So, John,
But sort of to John's point, and just to follow up, and I think what could make some sense is understanding that the town does not want to automatically opt out permanently and say no and shut the door, but hit that pause button, that maybe it does make sense, because the land use discussions alone, and whether that happens in a subcommittee meeting or any other venue, that process is not going to happen overnight. So maybe some of those discussions about potential conditions and land use, which my guess is the state is going to leave a majority of the land use issues up to the municipalities, that it's going to be a lot of the licensing stuff. So some of that discussion could continue to happen, so that when those regulations do come down, instead of us then saying, all right, we need to start thinking about conditional use standards of what we want to allow in industrial zones or in a retail zone, we sort of begin that process now, so the town is in a position to make an informed decision when and if those regulations come into place.
So, again, if this process went on, I'm asking John and you at the same time, does the town have a point where they can specifically zone areas for these 6 different types of licenses? And then some outsider can't come in and say, I want to put a place here, and you can't do anything about it. Do we have a chance to, are we going to have a chance to?
So we could start to do that
You have
now.
supreme authority to zone for 1 through 5.
So we can do that. That's a big job.
But not 6.
Not 6.
Correct.
And I don't think we're losing time by opting out now until the regs come out. I mean, you expressed that was one of your concerns.
Well,
Bruce,
and it's not a concern, it's a reality, because I happen to know of 5 people, and I'm not saying I want this, and don't.
Well, no, you expressed the concern that you thought we would lose time.
There's
So
guys
that's-
out there looking for properties now, and 5 of them have come here, looking, to this town, okay? So they're out looking, you know, but again, I'm not rushing it, because I don't know where we're gonna put it. I don't, so before I vote yes on it.
They can look all they want, but the regulations aren't even out yet. There's no contract.
They
There's
can't get a
nothing.
license.
They can't get a license.
There's
And until that happens, they can look all they want, they can do whatever.
They're not going to commit when they
don't
ever
ever-
get a license.
One thing I learned a long time ago is don't ever tell a man how to spend his money, just watch what they do, okay? And-
All right, so
but
I
anyway,
think
don't- you
that
know, you guys are,
we've decided that it would probably be appropriate at this time then to consider amongst ourselves to decide whether it is time to form a committee to further investigate the where and when and the regulations.
and I will
that we would
volunteer
have-
to not be on that committee,
Okay.
okay?
And then we would put it out for both the public, members of the public to be on, 1 or 2 members of the public, along with
You up for it?
the land use board. Should a member of the land use board or the environmental commission be attached to it, so that we have a varied group
I don't see
to
it.
start
I don't see it.
putting together where and when and how we would regulate these.
I don't see it.
And we're already gathering other towns' ordinances that are
Have already
opting in,
opted in.
that are
They
opting
already
in.
when they opt in, if we decide to opt in, we need to have all of this in place.
Right, you need to set your conditions, your
So
standards,
now
your
is the
rules,
time to do
and that'll all be in the
that first.
ordinance.
Correct.
So, John, a question for you. This is a 5-year license, correct?
Yeah.
So, you know, as far as Hainsport, it shouldn't be a concern with Hainsport, but in my mind, why would I want to invest millions of dollars in a facility when the license can be pulled only in 5 years? No.
It can't be.
know, if they're in.
No, that,
So
no,
well,
I don't think,
it's not a 5-year license. Our ordinances are reviewable every 5 years, right? So they're in longer than that, absent screwing up, right? I mean, absent doing something that would jeopardize their right to be renewed.
Okay, so we're stuck with this. So in my mind, I mean, when I buy and sell or when I'm looking at these contracts, I get a 3-day attorney review. If we just opt in, we don't get that.
well, we'd have to have. I
But
don't-
Bruce, what I'm
we'd
saying
have to
is we're
have
not
the
opting
ordinances all-
into, we're not starting the
I
ordinance
understand what you're saying.
today
Right.
to
We're gonna
opt
just
in.
Study it, basically.
We're going to figure out where, when, what kind of limits we want to put on them, that type of thing,
Understood.
so that it's all in place for when we decide to opt in.
That's smart.
Yep.
And you're going to name a subcommittee of 2 members of the governing body and then some residents and stuff like that? Okay.
Correct.
And just the fact that we're having a subcommittee means we're very open to the idea. I think
Yeah.
anybody investigating, be it a manufacturer, distribution, or somebody would know we're interested, we would form a subcommittee.
So I
So
think-
I don't think we have to,
Just give you-
I don't think opting out's going to take us out of the picture.
No, that's
That's
correct.
that's my point.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
that's
my
correct.
point. We're not losing time, and
So,
that's what-
yeah, so is there, if we could just get direction from the committee to prepare the ordinance for introduction of July to opt out, and then probably at the July, you can, kick names around among yourselves and appoint someone, to appoint people to this subcommittee so that we don't lose momentum and continue the
Right.
discussions going forward.
So, just one last, just a question. You've been in touch with some people that have opted in,
Correct.
and they have their ordinances together and all that stuff right away.
Yes.
So they've been thinking about it for a while.
It's not a lot of,
It's a very small number of people, because I have to say, the majority across the state of towns majority of towns are opting out, but majority of them are opting out until then. And that was explicitly expressed at a CRC public hearing, public comment period by Mayor Kovac, who represents all of the mayors of the League of Municipalities.
Right.
That, towns just don't feel comfortable right now making that decision. But again, there are a handful of towns that have opted in. It's my understanding through our Bridge Commission meeting yesterday morning that the river towns, Edgewater Park, and East Hampton
Opted in.
have opted in.
Mhm. I'm really surprised that any municipality can act quicker than Hainsport. I'm just shocked. I thought we were like on top of everything, like real quick. But I just don't know where we're gonna fit it, where we can put it. I don't know, that's
I
my.
can also express that I have received zero contact from anyone from the cannabis industry in the past several months. When this was up for referendum, I received about 5 or 6 emails and phone calls from
Yeah.
different people, but honestly, it's been crickets for the past 3 months.
So I think that's the wisest thing to do.
so we'll do that, we'll have that ready for you on the next.
Schmong's getting
You
old.
you want a resolution appointing the subcommittee, you want something
Is
like
that
that?
the best way to do it?
Probably not a bad way to do it.
Okay.
The only, I would just suggest that if it's possible, if you.
It's like really.
I'm ready, I'm ready. I like it.
We can't have 3 members of the, or can we?
Correct.
Because it's a subcommittee.
Only 2 members of the township committee. I was just going to suggest that if you have someone in the public who has the name Bogart, that'd be good.
Bogart?
Yeah.
Bogart.
Okay,
well, they can figure that one out. All right.
So at a maximum, 2 governing body members.
Correct.
And then whomever else you would like to, if you have certain agencies, somebody from the Laney's board, direct our professional staff to be part of that.
Okay,
As
but
an
that we can discuss and reach out to them and then nominate, have the resolution at the July meeting. Okay.
Police can't wait for that one.
Okay. All right, it's time for comments from the public. Anyone in this room have on agenda items only? Yes. Come forward. Anna.
Hi, Anna Evans, 63 Parry Drive. I just wanted to say about the project that was presented to us earlier, I'm glad that you were all expressing some reservations about introducing yet another warehouse facility into Hainesport. I personally have concerns, and I think the rest of you know that some of the residents have concerns, partly because of like Hainesport being a smaller township, we end up becoming dominated by these visual pieces. And also, I have a question. Would this development also have a pilot? Would it have another of those programs? Or have we not even got as far?
Not even gotten that far at
Yeah,
all.
because that is another concern that I have, that we bring in these developments and the pilots don't contribute to the schools, and we currently have developments which are going to bring more kids into the area. So, I just thank you for expressing reservations, and I just wanted to cement that
But
I also have reservations.
just in all candor, we didn't bring him in, he came here.
Right.
And, these people have a right to buy and sell their properties and develop it. And as he stated, at least one of the buildings, he doesn't need us for.
Absolutely.
So we're
yeah.
not going out and bringing, this is what the economy's bringing that's out there today, so.
No, I'm aware. I've read some articles
We'd love to
about
have
it.
Mayberry on every,
Right. This
but,
is just
you
what's
know,
happening in South Jersey
yeah,
right now, but,
yeah, it's the way
I just
things
think we
are.
all need to be aware that there are more issues than just,
Yeah, I hear you.
what's out there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Online? I don't see a hand.
Okay, we do have 3 residents online.
Did-
One gentleman wanted to talk earlier
Right.
about he's gone.
Left?
His initials aren't there anymore.
Is there anyone online that wants to say anything under public comments?
On agenda items only.
No. Okay, so we have 2 ordinances tonight. Ordinance 2021-5, appropriating capital improvement funds for various projects. It's a public hearing and final adoption.
Just like to make a comment on the ordinance, Mayor, if I may.
Absolutely.
I'm disappointed that there's no, and I don't want to express my disappointment at Paul in particular, but I want everybody to understand, I'm disappointed that the sidewalk request that I made when I first joined the committee is something I wish was on here, and I'm going to ask everybody to make sure that, we try to do that, and I'm going to be bringing it up pretty heavily, meeting to meeting. They're dangerous situations. If anybody else observes any other kind of condition that exists, John, we talked about it very early on in my tenure here, my second tenure, that there's a liability issue that the town shares with some of these sidewalks. So I don't think it's something that, can just not get addressed. And I try to look at other sidewalks. I was part of the planning that eliminated trees in between curbing and sidewalks early on in my tenure. It was just poor design, lifted all the sidewalks wherever they do it. So I'd really like to see this sidewalk issue get really addressed, and I'm going to be bringing it up and pushing. I'm a guy who's used to getting kind of what I asked for, and I want that, so I'm going to keep pushing for it. So thank you for your listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room that has any comment with regards to this ordinance? Anyone online? Hearing nothing, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Ordinance 2021-6 is adopting a redevelopment plan for certain property known as Block 101.01, Lots 1 and 8, and Block 113, Lot 4.05. This is a first reading and introduction. The public hearing and final adoption will be July 13th, 2021. Mr. Taylor, do you have something?
Thank you, Mayor. This is, as indicated, the introduction of a redevelopment plan. This is probably the 9th hearing that we've had as it related to the overall redevelopment process of these parcels. As you know, in 2019, Township Committee asked the Joint Land Use Board to undertake an investigation of 17 parcels to determine whether or not they met the statutory criteria to be either an area in need of rehabilitation or an area in need of redevelopment without condemnation in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing law. Those 17 parcels are basically located at Fostertown Road, Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, and Route 38. It is the Longbridge Farm properties, the old Volkswagen dealership, and some scattered residential properties through there. Through 2020, our office prepared that preliminary investigation in conjunction with the Joint Land Use Board, where there were recommendations to identify those parcels as areas in need of redevelopment, as well as some area in need of rehabilitation for some of the existing residential uses. The next step in the process, as you know, is the creation of a redevelopment plan. After those properties have been designated, this redevelopment plan sets forth some zoning modifications, a lot of design standards to effectuate redevelopment on just 3 of those 17 parcels. Those parcels are identified as parcels A, D, and Q from that preliminary investigation report. There are the blocks and lots identified by the mayor in the introduction of the redevelopment plan. Those 3 parcels, A, D, and Q, have frontage on Route 38 and also on Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, and constitute approximately 22.56 acres of the overall initial redevelopment investigation, which was about 42 acres. So we've gone through and we've included the study area map, the statutory requirements, and identified the parcels that are subject of the, what we're calling the Longbridge redevelopment area for those 3 properties. And I'll briefly touch on a few just sort of outline points now that I can expand on if there are any questions, or more meaningfully at the public hearing in July, I think Paula said. So we identify all the statutory requirements. We have basically created a reduced size for the R1 zoning district right along Hainesport Mount Laurel Road. That will facilitate the potential for 4 single-family residential uses, which is consistent and will remain in the R1 zoning district. Behind that, we are creating the Longbridge redevelopment area townhouse zoning district, and we've set forth design standards, density standards, and maximum permitted number of units of 45 townhomes that would connect into Hainesport Mount Laurel Road directly opposite from Easton, and there would be no interconnection from that townhouse development to the remainder of the property, which fronts on Route 38 and also on Fostertown Road, that is reserved for future commercial development. We, after some redevelopment subcommittee discussions, we have modified the highway commercial zoning to create the Longbridge redevelopment area highway commercial zoning district that basically adopts by reference a majority of the permitted uses within the highway commercial zoning district, except for funeral homes, a few other uses. We've expanded the list of permitted uses to include microbreweries, which were really not micro and limited breweries, which were, the ordinance is silent because it really wasn't a thing when your HC zoning was adopted, but we think that may have some potential there. We also established conditional use standards for gasoline fueling with convenience, as well as for fast foods, and design standards as well as it relates to buffers, landscaping, architectural standards that are all set forth in the plan. And I can go into greater detail on any of those points ad nauseum, or answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, we're going to swear Eric in?
For what?
For what?
No? Okay. Oh, we're talking about this?
No,
This is just
that's the land
introduction this evening.
Okay, I have a question. I don't know if it's, I just noticed so when you drive in to this development and you make a left, there's a little car in front of it. Just out of curiosity, what is that little, it looks like a little building with a little driveway? I haven't seen that part before.
On
Drive
ro-
in off Easton Way, keep
Drive in
going.
on Road A.
Yeah, make a left, there's a little car there. What's that little thing right in there?
On the left-hand side, as you're driving in, that will be a sanitary sewer pump
Okay,
station.
all right.
Yep.
I hadn't seen that before.
I believe it was further down in an earlier concept, and it was moved up to this location.
So you have to pump up, what, to Hainsport Mount Laurel Road?
Hainsport Mount Laurel Road's a force
Is it up?
that location.
I
up?
believe,
Main.
I believe so.
Well, I understand that, but I guess this has to pump into that.
Either that or Eric needed the pump station closer to his house.
I'm sure you,
I couldn't help myself, Eric,
Yeah.
sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions?
Ken.
So a motion to introduce on first reading and refer to the planning board would be in order.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
A second?
I'll second the motion.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes,
For the record, July 13, public hearing.
correct. All right, we have a number of resolutions listed as consent resolutions, A through G. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 10A, Resolution 2021-88-6, authorizes an application and execution of a grant agreement with the NJDEP Green Acres Local Government Stewardship Program.
Okay.
Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-89-6, approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for Pulaski Avenue, Iowa to Lumberton Road, Laurel Ridge Road, Craig Drive to Route 38, and Fenimore Road, Arc Road to Town Line resurfacing project.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-90-6, authorizing a change order number 1 in a contract for engineering services for fiscal year 2029 and 2020 New Jersey DOT Trust Fund improvement on Bancroft Lane. I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
I get a chance to look at this.
We discuss.
Sure.
I just, when I see change orders, I just always have questions, and apparently there was a pipe that was broken, and I guess because there was another company that was working with it, and this company came in, and now they noticed it or something. Can you clarify?
Sure.
Am I
So-
missing something here?
No problem. So when the development was initially built, there was a failure at 22 Bancroft Lane storm pipe And that first fix was passed on to K. Hovnanian, so they paid for that and managed that repair. There was another failure at the second seam. There's like 3 pipes
Okay,
that run all
right.
the way down to the lake. There was a second failure 2 years ago at the same location. So we, through an emergency appropriation, repaired it at that spot. We knew, just obviously, sequence of events, we need to fix this pipe. So as for the Bancroft Lane DOT grant, we were able to receive approval from the state to include in the road resurfacing project the stormwater pipe infrastructure repair. Initially, we all thought that we would be able to use a system called Snap-Tight, which is an interior lining. It's a rehabilitation method that's much cheaper, much more simple to repair. However, once they went in and videotaped and actually saw the pipe, they realized that there was actually more significant separation between 2 of the sections.
Okay.
So as a result of that, they need to do more engineering.
Okay.
They need to do a topography survey, preliminary final site design services, and they also need to do, our engineers need to do a change order in coordination with DOT since it's grant funded.
Okay.
So those are additional services on top of what we anticipated because
Okay.
the Snap-Tight's not going to work.
And all right, so, and that's another five grand.
5,430, and just know there's a possibility that we could have a change order like we had with our last road program with the reduction. So at the end of the day, it could wind up a
Right,
lot.
I just
or-
wanted to
Yeah.
just get some clarification on that, so I'll second that unless there's somebody else that has a comment.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Resolution 2021-91-6, amending the Township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan and authorizing the expenditure and receipt of the funds from the affordable housing purposes. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah, so basically, for the sake of the audience, we're contributing $100,000 to the building of some, I guess there's going to be senior affordable houses at the church down the street, so out of our COA fund. And I'll vote yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Okay, we have some business licenses to approve. I have a motion and a second.
I make the motion.
I have a second.
I'll second based on the discussion I had with Paula earlier about the, some of the licenses and what the state police had discussed.
Okay.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Okay, comments from the public? Anyone in the room? Nope. Anyone online? Nope. Comments from the administrator?
Not too much to report on tonight. We did receive our final number for the American Rescue Plan allocation for Hainesport Township. It's actually more than what we were originally informed, $625,499.28. Those fundings will be provided to us in 2 tranches. The first will be obviously split in half, 50/50, $312,749. Any expenditures will be from, I believe it's March 20th moving forward, so it's not retro prior to that date. And we have until 2024. Very specific things, criteria, very specific things that we can and cannot spend the money on. Originally, we were hoping that the sidewalk project would fall under infrastructure, so that's probably one reason why that was not included in the capital ordinance. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that road infrastructure or sidewalk infrastructure will be an allowable expense. Water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure are okay. Unfortunately, we don't qualify for the first two. However, stormwater is an option. Some of the ideas, and I think I promised you guys I would give you some thoughts on things that we may or may not be able to spend the funding on, and this is based on some webinars as well as our CFO's understanding. And again, this is still, the information is still being distributed to us. Stormwater infrastructure, thoughts are perhaps our stormwater in the proper is pretty old. The original storm pipes, I believe. We know we've had some issues on Edwin, so we may want to consider replacing the stormwater pipes on those main streets, Cottage, Edwin, and in that area. I do request that we focus on Edwin Street first, since that had 2 failures recently. Our website updating, our app, phone app, to communicate directly with our residents, our allowable expenditures. I do want to start looking at digitizing all of our files. We can purchase message boards, those kinds that you see on the side of the road that display messages to our residents and anybody that's going through town. We have had on our capital a building generator for the municipal building. Right now, the generator only services this room and the offices in the rear, obviously for when court was in session. I would like to get a generator for the entire building. And then potentially upgrades to the street center, because we may possibly use it one day for future response, COVID response, or intake area, vaccination area, things like that. As long as we can connect it to COVID or pandemic, then it would be allowable expenditure. So just some thoughts. Obviously, this is a working list.
Right. Okay.
Good job. It's disappointing the roads and sidewalks can't be included. That, when I think of infrastructure, I certainly would think a road would be included.
Broadband is allowable. It has to be connected to the pandemic. There has to be a direct connection to the
People were
pandemic.
walking.
I agree with that
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
whatever. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, comments from the solicitor. Mr. Gillespie.
Nope, good seeing you all. 4th of July is 2.5 weeks. Have a great Independence Day.
Thank you.
Comments from the committee. Mr. Levinson?
I have a comment. I'm a member of the Environmental Committee, and I talk to people from time to time about the environment. They don't really know what to do. They understand that the Earth, over the course of 4.5 billion years, has been fine-tuned to support life, and at the moment, it works in our favor. As a means of getting some information, I recommend reading Bringing Nature Back Home by Douglas W. Ptolemy. I think that would be a good starting place for people to begin to learn more about what they can do on a local level.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin?
I don't think the dais is any place for politics, but I did promise my constituents who elected me chairman of the Republican Party last night that I would thank them publicly, so here we go. Thank you.
Congratulations.
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 And I look forward to a clean campaign. I'm sure we will. But again, I don't believe politics belongs up here, because we represent Hainesport. It doesn't matter who the
Correct.
party is. But again, I just wanted to thank them.
Correct.
I'd like to talk a little bit about our fire department, our EMS, our state police. Memorial Day observance, they were here. It was very nice to have them here. Community Day, it was awesome. We had a great time. Got dunked a lot, but it was really great. And what I want to say is, I really want to make people aware, our fire department, EMS, they're all volunteers. They give their own time, and you see them go out constantly. And I'm going to speak about an incident we just had Saturday morning, a fire at Hainesport Auto and Truck, and their response, along with the neighboring departments, was great, quick, and a lot of our townspeople and members of our fire department work there. Hainesport Auto is one of our largest employers in the town, And I couldn't be prouder of our fire department, our EMS, how they handled that. And I also want to give kudos to the construction office, who were very quick about getting electricity back onto the safe, that was shut off to the safe part. They got the approvals. They got PSE&G there. We have a great community, and we all work together, and it's excellent. So I just want to say thank you to all you guys.
And don't, you gotta say who helped hook them back up. You.
Nah.
Jerry was right over there. He was right over there.
It's our community.
And he,
That's what we
he's an
do.
electrician, and he got him going.
Thanks, Jerry.
Good job,
Mr.
Jerry.
Montgomery.
Just want to echo what Jerry said about Memorial Day. I thought it was a wonderful ceremony. And we had quite a few people that have shown up, more so than we've had in the past. So it was a great event, a lot of wreaths put up. I was really happy and honored to be a part of that. Community Day was a lot of fun. I donned an old suit and got dunked. I ruined the suit, which was the idea of it, but it was just a lot of fun. It was great seeing everybody out there, and thank God we have beautiful weather. And I look forward, as I've been speaking to many of you, the residents of Hainesport, about their ideas of the cannabis ruling, and I'm going to continue to talk to you and get your opinions and get an understanding of what it is, what your thoughts are, et cetera. So, thank you.
Okay. Well, I too would like to thank everyone for attending, and also to thank Mr. Taylor for participating in tonight's discussions. I also want to thank everyone involved with Community Wellness Day. Donna Casey, the Director of the Recreation Commission, and her many helpers put on this wonderful event. And members of the New Jersey State Police, their mounted unit, accompanied the Civil Air Patrol, Color Guard in the opening ceremony. And then Tish Kelly and the members of the Environmental Commission released butterflies. The dunk tank volunteers were the principals, Simonet, Committeeman Klaus, Montgomery, and Levinson, and I think they all had a good time. Public Works Department prepared the fields. They put up tables and tents and took care of policing the fields. There was a slight accident with one of the horses. We had many generous sponsors, vendors, organization, businesses, and volunteers. I'd like to put a special thanks to Dr. Betty Forbes. Without her, it just wouldn't have happened. She reached out to Jefferson University School of Nursing, and they reached out, and over 24 students, professors, including deans, put together several interactive educational activities for children and adults. It was truly enjoyed by all. I want to remind everybody that I am still walking in the park on Mondays at 9 a.m., and this month I will be walking along with Jerry Klaus on June 26th, starting at 1:30 p.m. at Lakeside Creekside. We'll begin our walk at the corner of Bancroft and Edgewater, beginning of the park. So you're all welcome to join us. You don't have to live in that development. However, if they do, I hope they reach out to us. We're available to speak to you about anything you want to speak, and just get out and get a little bit of exercise, which is all part of the mayor's wellness campaign. I need to remind everybody that the next senior citizen meeting is June 24th at noon at the Street Center, and that next month begins the concerts in the park. They'll start July 11th, and there'll be food trucks at each event, so come early, bring your chairs, and be prepared to enjoy some great music. And please, I implore you to visit the Township website for more information. It changes on a regular basis. And with that, I think we have some bills to pay.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Okay.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Mr. Klaus?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes. Okay, so I do believe we have an executive session this evening. So Resolution 2021-92-6 to enter into the session. Do I have a motion
I'll make the motion.
and a second?
Second.
Do we have any idea how long we'll be?
Probably no more than 15 minutes.
And if there'll be any action taken?
I think there is, right? Yes. Formal
Okay.
action to be taken.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have 5 minutes?
Yes, take a break.
Nice.
So do you go out to your house in the like, middle of the year and see what's going on?
Yeah, I actually had to do some seed.
Did you get that? Okay, do it again. Oy, oy, oy.
Sorry, I was moving it down.
Motion to return to open.
Motion, move.
Second.
The motion?
Jerry?
Yes.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
One motion, look for one to make a motion to the dollar increase to 3.
Do we have to have a resolution number or don't know?
So I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we provide the vehicle for Paula to give the
Class
salary
4.
adjustments that she
Promotion,
outlined in
promotion.
an executive session and.
Promotion and the
aforementioned
raises.
Okay, what was that? I'm trying
All
to
right,
make
so
a
the
motion.
salary adjustments, you're
Yeah,
making a
yeah.
motion to
The
adjust the
salary
salaries
adjustments, yes.
for all of the the 4 positions.
Well, one's a promotion with a salary
And-
adjustment. The other 3 are just salary adjustments.
Yeah.
I guess it's
Wait a
mine.
minute.
Now it's 3 guys.
I'm sorry.
Now,
It's three guys'
and
motion.
to advertise.
Yeah,
And
what's
adver-
that,
And
Mayor?
to advertise.
And to advertise for a new hire, so. With that,
So we're doing this all in one motion? Yes. Advertise for the position. A motion to approve the promotion,
and the aforementioned raises,
and a motion to make the salary adjustments.
salary
Correct.
adjustments.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, are you ready to leave, Mayor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
to adjourn.
It's the fastest you've moved all night.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're getting as good at interrupting me as I am interrupting you.
Almost, almost. I'm
Give him
trying not
another
to let you
meeting.
get away with it as
Don't
much.
interrupt me when I'm interrupting you.
That's very good. Don't be interrupting me when I'm interrupting you.
I'm here.